for you. So, our next speaker is Dr. Grace Lowe, and she's going to talk about understanding the root cause of fat gain and the interconnection with that. And her gift is the Microbiome Mastermind Program. Welcome, Dr. Grace. So happy to have you with us today.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here, Pamela. And I just love empowering the feminine, the sacred feminine.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you need a screen share, it is available for you, and you have the floor.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me and welcome everybody. Today I'll talk about, there are many root causes to fat gain, sadly. So I'll talk about the ones that we can easily change and some that might be a little harder to change, but it's well worth it for our lives here on Earth. No matter, if we're living 50, 70 years or we're living 70 to Methuselah ages, like 120 years. Okay, yeah, you guys all ready for that? Great. I come from the world of regular pharmaceutical industry, and then I've bridged the gap coming into like integrative regenerative medicine the last 15 years. And just to let you know, a disclaimer is I do make probiotics and some endurance supplements for energy and botanicals that give us, fixing some root issues as well as changing our hormones, which we can do. We can all do. So I'll give you a little background. Since I was a teen and in my 20s, I've tried different diets because I was overweight and I couldn't do anything that would really shift it. Something might work temporarily for a few weeks or at most a month or two or three, but nothing, it was hard for things to stick. And now that I've, understanding functional medicine and all the reasons for our hormone changes and evolution aspects, right? Our genetics have been here for the last over a million years since our kind, if you believe in evolution, the Homo sapien, Homo neanderthal, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, all our background on Earth here and our ancestors, our lineage, right? We've escaped all kinds of drought and famine and earthquakes and all kinds of acts of nature and God, and yet we're still here. So we can give it up to, all our ancestors, but our DNA has been honed and refined over this time period. And as a result, our fat is just it's a reflection of our persistence on Earth. And our persistence on Earth has to do with seasons, okay? And living at a time, over a million years where there weren't a lot of industrial pollutants in the water, the air, the food, hardly. But in the last 100 years alone, humankind has created these factories and amazing things, like hardware and software, computers, everything that has also made our work so much easier. So we're not like putting in the same amount of physical demand onto our bodies. And we've increased the number of pollutants into our earth. And this has drastically affected humankind, every generation, our children, our grandchildren, us, our parents, our grandparents, if they're still alive. And we've never seen actually children so obese ever or dying before their parents of age-related conditions like cancers, refractory cancers, chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and obesity, fatty liver. Never have we. And it's because the children are so affected because they're getting handed down toxins from their mom. I'll give you a long list in a second. And they're getting new toxins every day the second they're born, like they likely don't really need because there's no immune system. You can't trigger antibodies when there's no immune system to start with. You need a microbiome, you need a decent immune system, and babies don't really develop it until months into after growth and expansion into their environment. So we have hundreds of chemicals in babies. Before they breathe the first breath of life, they have over 400 different chemicals found in their cord blood. This is something we've seen for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Now, for older people like us, we have also a ton of chemicals. And depending on our exposures, our diet, how much processed food we eat, our amalgams even, our dental care, all right? and how much birth control someone had. Okay, like me, I had 10 years of regular oral pill birth control, and then I had 3 awful years of a Mirena IUD, the intrauterine device. Actually, the first 2 years were great, and then everything was downhill after that. And it took me 8 years to uncover that and undo the damage from that. So pharmaceuticals they've given us many gifts. They save lives. We don't have these killing infections that we normally might have, and other conditions. But they're now in our municipal water at uncounted and high, and not low levels either. They're all detectable. We're getting, beta blockers, heart drugs, statins, mental illness conditions, disease pharmaceuticals, um, and like Prozac and many other things. And these all disrupt the gut. They kill our microbiome. Like we know birth control and hormones that are not they're synthetic and not bioidentical to ours. They disrupt our body. This is known as EDCs, endocrine disrupting agents. So that even includes the scents that you smell at your gym, the grocery market, restaurants, hotels are terrible. And they're also like Febreze, where you don't smell it, but it's there in the environment to neutralize scents, but you're breathing it in and it's disrupting your own hormone system. So when someone's lean versus being obese, many pathways are on that are good. They're anti-inflammatory. Now, not everyone who's overweight is actually not unhealthy. They're not necessarily unhealthy. Studies actually show, we gain weight for a reason. It's to protect maybe our bodies so that we don't starve. So, for instance, I have very ancient genes in a way. I have an ancient blood type as well. I have a lot of SNPs that aren't conducive. They're variants and mutations that aren't really conducive to modern living and modern chemicals for sure. So my kind, we develop a lot of diabetes and heart attacks and strokes. Like our lineage is like that. In our family, we don't seem to have the cancer risk, but we have all these other chronic disease risks. Yet we have a lot of longevity. A lot of my grandparents and great-great-grandparents, they lived to 90s and even 100 and over 100. But now, we have much earlier deaths and cancers that we didn't see previously, and a lot of early premature death. And ancient genes don't really tolerate a lot of these chemicals. And so also we have a lot of diabetes. So when there's starvation, it's selected for conditions and genetics that could tolerate low energy inputs. And that means they're a little more diabetic, which in famine, that's a good thing because these people survived, their genetics carried on, and now they're here, right? And they tolerated stress. So everyone who's still alive here and doing decently well, even if they're overweight, which doesn't mean they're ill or sick, it means actually you have the best genetics to survive despite all the things going on or the chemicals going on. These days, we're not really seeing famine, but we're seeing starvation at the cellular level. Nutrients aren't getting in because of gut microbiome issues, or the food quality is terrible, really low nutrition found in the food. So if you have these kind of genetics, you have to pay attention to the ancestry. Did your ancestors probably walk a lot? Did they eat kind of lower calorie on a lot of days and only feasted when, there was a festival or a celebration, not every day? Okay. And then there's studies that show, we have a big body of literature now about people who lose weight. They actually, let's say they get lean, they may have actually higher all-cause mortality and higher rates of death compared to someone who's actually overweight, who didn't lose the weight. Now we're finding there's no, these aren't functional medicine studies, obviously. It's just modern medicine. They're kind of in a query, right? They're like, oh, WTF, we don't understand this. Doesn't make sense, right? Because they try to tell us every day, oh, you're doing something, you're too fat, blah, blah, blah. But that's not the case. Our fat is there's a reason why we have fat. It's a good thing. We want to love our bodies because when we hate it, we're pushing it away and we're creating stress in our body. And guess what? Your gut and the vagal nerve and the nervous system detect it and it won't lose weight. So you need to love your body and understand it. Today, I really want to go over like the owner's manual of our body. Like we have reasons why we gain weight faster than average or normal or whatever. And if you struggle with that, if you understand more, I hope that you'll be able to liberate the fat easier by understanding, right? So our fat carries fat soluble nutrients. and energy, really high density of energy. It's 9 calories per gram of energy when you eat fat versus protein or carbs, let's say, right? Our fat also can carry fat soluble toxins. So it carries your omega-3s, your fat soluble nutrients like vitamin A, D, E, K, all of them, all the good ones. They also carry mycotoxins, which are fat soluble. All the chemicals like from petroleum and gasoline, we call these aromatic hydrocarbons, and all the fat soluble toxins like plastics, microplastics, and even flame retardants and other pollutants that come from industry. Like, how do you think they make, steel and other things? Now they're all in our water supply. And our fat can carry actually heavy metals. And so can our bone, particularly, but our bone carries a lot of lead. And that takes 7 years to overturn. And so you can imagine the detox for that is going to take a while, right? And gases as well, fat soluble, if they're fat soluble gases, most are fat soluble aromatics, so they're going to store there too. So as we're liberating fat, if your goal is to lose some weight, you also have to do it in a very conscientious, intentional, safe way. Now, 50, 100, 150 years ago, when we had farms, this was not a big deal, right? There weren't chemicals in the fat to worry about enough that would impact. But now, if we're liberating a lot of chemicals from this great storage form, now it's going to recirculate unless you have a great gut, you're pooping twice a day and taking lots of fiber, because fiber and like foods like whole grains and beans and lentils. They have a polysaccharide network, which means like a fiber network that grabs these and takes them out. We literally defecate out toxins this way, particularly the fat soluble ones, and pesticides and glyphosates. I forgot to mention those are big ones. And we want to take some binders. So we do some detox pathway programs with people. If you're interested, we have a Master Gut class and other programs at thegutinstitute.com and individual programs with me and group programs. And we'll guide people through and educate their medical team, how to do this very safely. So we take binders. As you can imagine, binders will also bind good stuff. So it's not like you want to take these all day, every day. We want to be very intentional, again, safe, and science-based. So binders are good to consider, and also have high fiber diets and having stools twice a day, bowel movements twice a day as we're losing fat. So the second reason, a second reason why we can have an obesity crisis at this time, studies show these are highly related to how often people take antibiotics. Literally, in children, we'll count how many antibiotics they'll have, and this correlates statistically to how obese a child is now. How many
Wow.
antibiotics the child had. It's literally, if they take 3 to 5 antibiotics by age 7, they're very obese. Yeah, like a lot of data is supporting this, and it's like nearly every study that looks at it. It could be causation. We don't know. It doesn't mean causation. Correlation means the causation of it, but it's highly, highly, highly suggestive because it is for adults as well. The data is not so straightforward. It's more like 70-30, 60-40 of the studies, 60% out of 100% of the studies. But it's pretty apparent, like other people who may not get fat, they may be skinny fat. Have you guys heard that term?
Mhm.
So skinny fat just means they don't have a lot of muscle. They can't put on muscle. They're hard gainers. It's difficult for them to lift weights and gain muscle, but they put on some, they're skinny. They're not overweight. Their BMI scale is okay, but they have fatty liver. They have fatty pancreas. They're insulin resistant. They don't put on muscle, and they may also have brain fog and low energy, so brain fog, fatigue, and the skinny fat picture. Okay, so our programs, we help clients reduce brain fog, body fat, and fatigue in 4 to 6 months or less. And we're using cutting edge regenerative protocols, and we're changing the trajectory of someone's inflammatory status so that they don't die young, basically, because it's all related. So the second, yeah, considering how many antibiotics you had or your mom had, okay, maybe it's not you, but it could have been your mother or her grandmother who had a lot of chemo or radiation or antibiotics. These all kill our good gut flora. And our gut flora is so important because there's 100 trillion of them. That's a damn lot, okay? And there's as many as our own cells. So they're literally a second self. It's our other half. And when we've damaged them, we have to bring them back. And that's why when people take our probiotics, they tell us, oh my gosh, Grace, I'm losing weight. And I've done everything already, blah, blah, blah. So our flora make a huge difference. They also will tell us, "Oh my gosh, Grace, I'm happy." Like, and I've been unhappy or anxious and or bipolar, depressed or whatever, right? And that's because our flora, they also keep us happy. They make serotonin and dopamine. They keep us in a reward-driven life, and satiated. So, it's really common now. We talk about Ozempic and tirzepatide and these GLP-1 drugs, agonists. They're great. I wish we could put them in the water because our GLP-1 pathways are broken. If we don't have the good flora that make GLP-1, and if we don't have fiber that feeds them, fiber alone actually turns on GLP-1 as well. And so these pathways are just broken because we had antibiotics, a lot of antibiotics. And kids these days, they're also getting vaccines. Too many vaccines act like an antibiotic. Many of the vaccines have mercury in them or aluminum. They usually have one or the other. And these are really toxic to our gut flora. Aluminum and mercury. Mercury used to be used as an antimicrobial in the hospitals before. Doctors and nurses would wash their hands in mercury powder. They'd spread it all over the sheets in the hospital beds to keep germs away. Well, little did they know they were killing themselves, and the dental amalgams that we have, or the poor dentists who went crazy, right, and committed a lot of suicide. This whole class of workers, dental workers and dentists, they would always have this like kind of like mem that they were like depressed and suicidal a lot. Well, they're exposed to like high levels of mercury. They were literally mad as a hatter because even if you drill it out or you're touching it, right, you're gonna totally get it in and it volatilizes, but it's in the offices because the amalgams will be like, scattered everywhere as little particles, but they're leaving like this gaseous material and we breathe it in and we get more toxic. Okay, so the third is I'm guilty of this, even though I'm a wannabe athlete. We atrophy too much. We promote in our programs when the cheapest, easiest things people can do is 10 to 15,000 steps a day. For every hour I sit on my bum, my beautiful bum, I actually need to work out like 10, 20, 30 minutes to make up for it. Because when I'm sitting, I'm telling my muscles like, okay, you're not doing anything. You can rest and turn off. But we want to turn these on because our muscles are like our microbiome. Our muscle cells, the ATP that comes from something called mitochondria, it's a powerhouse, it's a nuclear powerhouse. They're identical to our bacteria that cover our bodies, our vaginas, our eyeballs, our sinuses. I talk about, nose to toes, eyeballs to tongue to tail, eyeballs to our skin everywhere. We want healthy, good gut flora because literally studies show when we feed the flora with good fiber, like inulin, FOS, psyllium, GOS, XOS, these fibers, the gooey fibers, they will induce weight loss in human beings. So 10 to 20 grams of these, which is a lot. It's kind of a fart-worthy dose. So you want to start low, go slow. But these are actually shown to cause like many kilos of weight loss. And then same with probiotics. Now the probiotic studies aren't as strong, but when people do a gut reset like our program, it's on if you want to read the protocol, it's thegutinstitute.com/gut reset. We push a higher dose of our really high potency product, and we can really recolonize, resurrect all the flora. And that's a quick, easy way to get weight loss really jump started. Because we're missing the flora all over, the ear, nose, throat area, the vaginal area that leads to infertility or polycystic ovarian disease, as you guys have heard of, or fibroids, or even cancers, ovarian, endometrial, and uterine and other cancers. When we don't have the good gut flora, we are susceptible and vulnerable to viruses, whether it's HPV, SARS-CoV-2, or Epstein-Barr, or other herpes viruses. These are all in the same family. Our biome is what protects us from these. So even with COVID, we're finding one bacteria makes the biggest difference statistically. It's called bifidobacterium. Bifidobacterium longum is one species. When people are low in it, they're more symptomatic for COVID and long haul, subsequent long haul, which is like people get fat, they get, cancers, breast lumps, they get fatigued, chronic fatigue, autoimmune diseases go rampant after in long haul often. And they found that it's statistically related to how low our bifidobacterium are. And then same with diabetes and even obesity. When statistically when bifidobacterium are low, obesity rates are high. These are correlated to our gut flora. So Bifidobacterium is our highest potency in our probiotics. There's no other brand on the market that has as high potency as ours. We also overstuff it. So even at the time of delivery, we have far more than what's stated on the label. And that's why people get such great results with it. Yeah, bifidobacterium also is shown even for spectrum conditions like ADD or Asperger's or autism. The lower the bifidobacterium, the higher the rates of autism or ADHD. And they could protect women and their babies, babies who kind of have the genetics for autism. There was one study that was done by Party out in 2015. She prophylactically gave babies that were susceptible and vulnerable genetically to Asperger's and ADHD a probiotic at birth. And they only took it for like, I think 6 months or a year. And then they found that these children were protected. None of them developed ADHD or autism versus the control that got they got a dummy placebo. And when they drilled the gut flora down, and even though this probiotic, it was Lactobacillus rhamnosus, which again, ours is actually very high in it. It's one of the highest on the market as well. They gave lactobacillus rhamnosus, but statistically, the only flora that changed in the gut that was correlated to protection against Asperger's and ADHD was how high the bifidobacterium got. And the kids who were found in the placebo group who developed ADHD and spectrum conditions, they were deficient. It was statistically related to how low their bifidos were. So we can do so much with our health and long-term health by supporting our biome. Now, some easy, cheap things that are shown to help weight loss is drinking apple cider vinegar. Because when our gut breaks, whether it's from birth control or stress or candida overgrowth, we don't make enough acid to break down food very well. So the food's just like putrefying, rotting in our gut. Apple cider vinegar is shown in several human trials when people just take 1 to 2 shots a day. I prefer people drink it with warm water with a meal. They're shown to lose weight. It may be only a few pounds, but it's really encouraging for people to see that. And they'll also see a corresponding improvement in insulin resistance, better insulin levels. And for our clients, we'll hear, they have more energy and they're digesting better and blah, blah, blah. So apple cider vinegar once a day. And I already mentioned exercise. We all need a little more exercise, right? But while we're exercising, I'll tell you the good benefits. One is people report better mood. Now, who doesn't feel better, by getting a little sweat going on, which is a great detox pathway, and maybe seeing their friends, like whether it's a walk outside with friends or going on a hike or going to the gym and seeing their friends at the gym, either lifting weights or at a group class or yoga class, right? And the third is our microbiome loves it. You're aerating and you're moving this like it's actually a little fermentation chamber, kind of like your little sauerkraut container. We're moving it. And they love that little jarring, action. And it's good. It's good for them. And like those are great reasons. Also, we find people have like studies show there's better hormones, stress reduction. If you're getting out in the sunlight, so if it's the midday or when the sun's really strong, you're getting vitamin D, a lot of great benefits, so many great benefits. I love the detox. We need to sweat a little because our sweat, whether it's sauna or sweating with a workout, you're getting some toxins out. And for me, I'm a Kundalini yoga instructor. It's moving our chakras, We need to get creativity going, and that's our root chakra. Sometimes our most survival emotions like anger, stress, frustration, feelings of betrayal, or self-loathing, it gets trapped in our root chakra. And when we shake it up and dance, move, walk, hike, yoga, we're moving that root chakra to process it. We all need to process, right? Just like our gut, what it's doing for us is processing all our nutrients. We want to be processing emotions because they're an energy and we are emotive human beings. Dogs and bears and animals, they also have emotions. Ours are so strong. We even show it on our expressive faces, right? And our expressive voices. So we are emotional beings. How many of you haven't cried during a TV drama, right? Netflix, or during opera, right? Or let's say a Grateful Dead concert or U2 concert, right? Or right? We process emotions. And so if we don't process them and feel them, we're like trying to hammer them down. We're actually causing gut problems, believe it or not, because our gut, the vagal nerve, stores it. It will keep it there until you're ready. You have support, you have a therapist, you have friends that laugh and, commiserate and celebrate with you. We are meant to feel all these things. And when we're not, then they get trapped until you're ready to process. So I highly believe in processing and envisioning, what you really want for your life. And that just that gratitude in your heart and gut, the gut and our hearts, the small intestine in our heart, in many traditions of medicine, these are partner organs. So if you feel like you have a lot of bloating and gut issues, look at what's going on in your heart. Is there something you're holding on to that you're not processing and letting go, not forgiving, not holding with love and holding yourself with love? That's something, really important. I think we've all been on Earth now for so many different generations, our lineages, and we've had a lot of trauma and wars and famines and natural disasters. So it's in our DNA. Studies show we have different methylation of our chromosomes, and we know this from the Holocaust and wars, and the subsequent generations hold on to it until they actually at some point release it and process it and heal, right? And there's so many, we're so lucky there's so many modalities for that. So those are some of the easy ways and the gut reset to really hone down different reasons for fat gain. I hope that's helpful for a lot of you. Should I take some questions now, Pamela?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? You can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Thank you so much. About the probiotics, and I was interested in the studies that you'd mentioned with, the autism, Asperger's, and yeah, the antibiotics. And I used to work in the pediatric ER, so I used to see them toddling in, and they're obese at 3 years old. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah. And they're found to have a lot of, yeast and parasites in the gut. But we, in functional medicine, I'm not into like doing constant candida parasite protocols. We have to look at the root issue,
yes,
how high is someone's body temperature? Do we need to support the thyroid a little? Do they need to do some heat-based therapy like more sauna, more hot baths with magnesium chloride, um, what are the hormones looking like? Are they stressed? Should we give them adrenal support that's not stimulating, that they're not allergic to? Like a lot of these autistic kids, they only like white stuff. You can't blame
yeah,
them.
yeah,
White bread, white rice, white cheese, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because their gut can't break down other foods. They don't like salads and greens because they have high oxalates. So our probiotic, we have 5 species of oxalate degraders. We need to eat healthy, nutritious food, but a lot of people they don't have a means
yeah,
to break it down. They're missing the flora because of antibiotics or their mom had antibiotics during the birth. Every Pitocin IV comes with actually an IV antibiotic when they're using induction during birth.
mm,
Yeah, or with a C-section, right? Or anyone who's had shoulder surgery, knee surgery, breast implant surgery or explant surgery, or even dental
yep,
work. Everyone's
yeah,
getting antibiotics. And some of these are needed, but others are like, well, are there other ways to do it? Like my children, sadly, they had ear infection. My oldest had ear infections. And we just let her, I didn't know what to do. If I had gone with more essential oils and probiotics, like it would have stopped. And, her gut's so much better now, but until we knew, she's getting asthma, it was just progressing. Then she was getting vitiligo and autoimmune disease
mm,
and this and that.
oh
But
yeah,
fortunately, we were able to, halt a lot of that.
good, good, yes. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat, but there you can get Dr. Grace's gift. The link is in the chat for you and also on the event page as well. Her gift of the Microbiome Mastermind Program. And the guthealthinstitute.com is your website, correct?
It's true. The Gut
The Gut
Institute.
Health, thegutinstitute.com, sorry,
Yeah.
thegutinstitute.com.
And our free gift is a couple protocols. We sell the products on our dispensary, so I don't think we put enough information there, but if you don't find it, just connect with us. We have staff that will take questions or phone calls, and we'll be really happy to share that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yep. See
And I'll
that.
put in
Okay.
the chat, I mentioned the gut reset,
Yeah.
powerful program. People should consider taking it for a month or two because it's the higher dose, and then you can go to maintenance, which you'll maintain the flora there, taking a minimum of 2 doses a week. But to get there, it requires gradually increasing
Yeah.
to 7 capsules a day. Yeah. It does get expensive. So we sell a cost-effective powder, which often will run out, sadly, but we have plenty right now. And
Lot of pill fatigue for some people.
I know. I try to minimize doing as much lifestyle as we can, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I,
Absolutely.
I, I hear you.
Kat has a question. What probiotics do you recommend for children 3 years old, and does it come in powder form?
Yes, it comes in powder form, but you can open any of our capsules. We also sell it on Amazon. Microbiome Mojo is a complete 9 species probiotic. So it's got our signature probiotic, and then it's got a couple of soil-based probiotics. And you can just open the capsule and just give your children or even baby under one, like a little pinch, like or a dab your finger in, and then put it in their mouth. And then gradually you can increase it. So for spectrum kids who are 2 or 3 or 4 years old, we've heard in a lot of different forums, people give their children, the spectrum kids, even a couple capsules a day, and they can just change their speech and make eye contact within a week or triple their vocabulary.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're really
Amazing.
profound in how much they change people. Yeah, and it's because the microbiome studies show when we're missing these species, we're full of different conditions, obesity, struggling with fat gain, which I've certainly have on and off my life, as I explained, and all for different reasons, and we can really switch this up and change it with just some intention. So the gut reset is on the link if you want to, if you, I can copy it and put it in again because I think if you join later, you don't see it. Do you have children yourself, Pam?
I don't. I have two fur babies.
Okay. Well, fur babies deserve probiotics too.
I do. He gets his
They love them.
probiotic every day and his
Yeah.
CBD oil.
Oh, awesome. They are high quality pets.
That's great.
They're probably fed better than some Americans.
Yeah, yep. I can, sometimes it's like, oh, more money's going to you guys this month. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
It's all good. That's why my cat is now 20. And before you came on, he was literally calling for me because he can't
Oh,
hear. So, and it was
oh,
all to tell me that the other cat ate the food and he was hungry. That he was just, he can't hear
yeah.
himself. So he was in the background.
Oh, yes, you can't neglect them. They're the
Well,
best.
great presentation. Thank you so much. A lot of good information. And, gut health, you have to have a healthy guts for everything. It's the second brain. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Grace. So lovely to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Anything I can help with, just let me know. And would love to support people in their journey for better health and wellness. There's so many things we can do and all really actionable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.